Hey, hello, this is Ravi. I'm the host of My First Million Live podcast, where I talk on topics of startups, entrepreneurship, side hustles, you name it. I have conversations with interesting entrepreneurs on my show, entrepreneurs of all kinds, entrepreneurs who are just starting up, entrepreneurs who are uh, who are still in the ideation phase, entrepreneurs who have gotten their first early customers. I've got entrepreneurs who have gotten not just early customers, but have also met product market fit. Entrepreneurs who are at the scaling up of their organizations. I get to talk to people of all kinds, entrepreneurs of all kinds, because every part of that journey has immense learning potential for all of us. So this is the format of my podcast where I talk to these entrepreneurs. However, since last week, I started this new series within the podcast where I share interesting trends and lessons that I have picked along the way from my information diet or the conversations that I have with interesting people that I either have had a conversation with or conversation on Twitter. So I got some good feedback from the first episode, and that's why I'm here with episode number 2. And the three topics today are: number one, ideas on content creation by one of my favorite persons that I have known, Shaan Puri. He has caught my fancy in the last few months, and I have not been able to stop consuming his content. So he talks about these ideas on content creation. So I'm gonna share about that. The topic number 2 is on opportunity cost of pursuing career business choices. This is topic number 2. And topic number 3 is how high agency is a reflection of your success in life. So these are the three topics. I have slides, so it's better for your attention as well if you're watching on YouTube. But I would also like to tell you that if you prefer listening only on audio, then the content is also available on Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud. You just have to search for it and you will get it. I will put in the links below in the description so that you know, and then you can subscribe for it. Talking about subscription, please, if you like the content, do hit subscribe. It just makes me feel good, makes me feel motivated when more and more people subscribe to my content. Excellent. So with that, let's get started. Let me share my screen here. As I said, I have slides. Slides are good for retention. So let's push me to a corner. Now you have the slides. Excellent. All right. Presentation mode. So as I said, I'm going to talk about the three important trends and lessons that I picked in the last 2 weeks. All right, so what are the three trends? Again, ideas on content creation by Shaan Puri. And as I said, Shaan Puri has caught my fancy. He runs this podcast called My First Million. And you might see that my podcast is also called My First Million, but it was purely accidental because after I called myself my new podcast is My First Million, and then when I Googled, I already found a podcast that is already run, and that's how I bumped into Shaan Puri, and he's one of the most interesting persons that I have found. And he and his friend Sam, they run this podcast where they talk about different business ideas. Very interesting content because they talk about all kinds of ideas, not just technology companies, but businesses of all kinds, businesses, white collar businesses, blue collar businesses, technology, non-tech, you name it. Yeah, so I will share about that. Second is the opportunity cost of pursuing career business choices. So usually what happens is whenever we make a career choice, it's always a trade-off, and the trade-off is an opportunity cost. So when you pick up entrepreneurship, there's an opportunity cost that you're letting go. That means a secure job, promotions, and stuff like that, because you are on the path of uncertainty, and that uncertainty comes at a cost, and that cost is opportunity cost. So how do you tackle that, and what did I learn about opportunity cost with my conversations in the last 2 weeks? And the third is something latest of all the three content. this is something that hit me like a ton of bricks on how high agency is a reflection of your success in life. So these are the topics that we cover today. So number one, ideas on content creation. So this comes from Shaan. He shares it and he says that, you know what, Shaan has a massive following. His content gets viral. Lots and lots of people find his content useful, valuable. They follow him madly. And he has this knack of creating content one after another without diluting or without ever keeping the bar low. So his bar is always consistent. It's always top notch. And that is what is fascinating. And he shares his secret. So the secret is there are two types of content creators, he says. He says one is a generous expert. The other one is a curious beginner. And you know what? Both can publish or share content that can go viral. And the reason is because everybody is an expert from their own life experiences. So I might be a beginner on a certain topic, but the experiences of learning that topic is unique and it's only me. And that is what makes me unique in my own life experience. So the content that I'm sharing now to you is my interpretation, and my interpretation of this content is going to be unique. And that's why he says that if you want to share content, you don't have to be a billionaire to teach what you know. You can use your personal experiences, small stories, first-hand knowledge, and curiosity, which is very, very unique because nobody can replicate my own experiences. It's unique. So that is very, very satisfying to also know that, you don't have to get bogged down saying that, you know what, I am not an expert on crypto or I'm not an expert on NFT. But you know what did you learn while picking up these knowledge bites in your journey? How did you apply it to your own life? What are your interpretation and how does it relate to your life? If you share this, it becomes very personal and very unique. So that's why he says you are an expert in your own life experiences and you are a beginner in everything else. And the another tactic that he mentions, very important one, is the first thing you do is to decide what reaction you want the reader to have when you are sharing a content. It could be a tweet storm, it could be a Twitter thread, or just an update on Twitter, or an email, or through a video content like this. So the first thing you have to decide, start from the end. That means when you're sharing a content, what is the kind of impression that you want to leave on them? What is the kind of reaction you want the reader to have? So if you do not decide upon what kind of reaction you want to have, it becomes difficult because then you are not landing it appropriately. So for example, I'm creating this content. I would expect, I would hope that you guys, whoever are listening to this content, are at least getting some sort of excitement in learning something new. Okay, so this is how I would begin, because lack of emotion, if I'm not able to trigger any emotion within you, then I'm landing flat. And which is okay, because you learn over time on how to generate that kind of reaction. I also do not believe in over dramatizing things just because I want to generate some reaction, but at least I should try my best that I should not fall flat, and it should generate some kind of curiosity. It should pique your interest, and that is important part of content creation as well. So Shaan also says that there are 8 core emotions that power writers target, but this applies not just to writers, but to audio and video content creators as well. And this is about lol, that it could be funny, what the fuck, that pisses people off. That is also a kind of strong emotions that you can generate. That is so cute, that is so amazing, wow, that's crazy, oh, now I get it. So if you actually are able to teach them something new, and then they say, yeah, now I get it, that is one kind of emotion. Finally, someone said what I feel, that means validation. So people actually feel for the content that you share because they also think similarly. And yay, that's great news. That's something that is a wonder eliciting that kind of emotion. Yeah, so these are the kind of emotions you should elicit. If you're not falling in any of this bucket, then you are missing the point, so to say. And the best thing is the internet is a big and noisy place, he says, and he says 99% of people don't see the best stuff. Okay, because it's so crowded and people might be sharing their content, but their content might not be seeing the light of the day, or only their friends and near ones would be getting the content, but the rest of the world is not getting the content because it's so crowded and so noisy. So, and even if they do, you can remix, simplify, or package it in a new way to a new group of people. So that's exactly what I am doing. So what I am doing is I'm repackaging the same information that I have found. Okay, so I'm curating the information for you and presenting in a way that I hope serves you. So that's how it is. So these are some of the tricks, and I found this very valuable, especially because it comes from somebody who has already done this, who is already a thought leader, and who has shown with his massive following on how content rules. So summary is, writing is more fun and valuable when you have a big audience. Invest in learning how to grow your audience through viral content. Okay, so if you have something really nice to say, how you put it makes the channel and the distribution better. Okay, so you should not just invest in writing something informational, but how you write it so that there is an element of virality, there is some interest. You make it in the same content, two people speak, one person who speaks that content or he shares that content, he makes it a little more interesting, and that shares that travels more. So this is a skill one should learn. Next is to go viral, generate interesting ideas, and slingshot it with emotion. This is what we learned. To find interesting things, look inward for personal experiences, or mine the internet for gold that you can remix. And that's what I am attempting to. I'm mining for the gold. That means the ones that I have created and elicited an aha moment in me, I share it. Okay, because in 2 weeks I consume a lot of content, I talk to a lot of people. So I bring the best nuggets and share it with you with my own personal experiences. When it's time to write, start with the end reaction, as I already mentioned. So this is lesson number one, insight number one. The second one was also an aha moment for me, because opportunity cost is something that I have always wondered. If I'm pursuing something, if I'm taking a risk in life, okay, what else am I letting go? What is the price that I am paying for this? And which is the bigger price? The opportunity cost, if it is more expensive, then there's no point going ahead with taking this risk or taking this choice. So I've always found this dilemma, and I asked this question proactively to few people, and I got some answers. So let's hear. The first one comes from Nikunj Verma, who is the founder CEO at Cutshot.io. Just to set the context, Nikunj was already in a very successful role in a couple of startups, and he was doing good for himself. He was in the US for a couple of years, and still he went against the tide. He jumped into entrepreneurship. He jumped into uncharted territory. It was uncertain. The road ahead was uncertain, and he spent 6 years, 5 years actually, to grow his business very steadily. So he did not go for any funding from external sources. He bootstrapped his business, and he steadily grew one step at a time. So there's nothing dramatic for his business, but then he always had this pressure. He always asked the same question to him, that what am I foregoing for venturing into this path? And he shared that with me on the conversation. So I'll play that clip for you. It will be useful. If I translate, it does not help. Let's hear from the horse's mouth what Nikunj himself shared with us.
Since my wife was also earning alongside, so there was also one more, comfort factor there. So finances wise, actually, fortunately, we did not have a lot of problem. And I think it also is important to understand that the cost of doing a startup actually is going low. It's going very low right now. So I think the time is the biggest. The opportunity cost of doing a startup actually is a bigger cost than actually the cost of hiring people and scaling it. And at least in terms of product market fit and all of that, first 2 stages you can cross at a very low budget.
Right.
So
What did you mean by opportunity cost is higher than actually the cost of running business? How do you explain opportunity cost?
So for an entrepreneur, like for example, for me, with that kind of experience already in place, so I had around 10, 12 year experience at that time. My market salary was much higher at that time. And then I could have, done, like you said, Ravi did high side hustles, right? So that also could be very easily managed. Today you have remote work. You have so many companies looking for good talent. So for a founder, if you really can build a successful company, the kind of skill sets you have or you should have are actually pretty much valuable. And there's a big market for those skills. So if you employ those skills for other companies, like say some really good companies out there, and you charge them in dollars, right? You can make a lot of money today. If you look at that cost, I mean, it's not unusual or difficult for someone who can be a founder material to get, let's say, 200K as a salary today, working remotely. And 200K in India is quite a big amount of money. So that 200K into 3 years, if you're foregoing building your startup from scratch, it's like 600K. It's like a $500 million that you are letting go in just your opportunity cost. Now the 600K, what you're letting go is also can be reinvested, and it is not risk. It does not have any risk. So you also attach risk to it. So they realize 600K actually is worth a lot more as compared to doing a startup where you are not earning, you are actually putting your own money. So you're actually risking, and you're also taking a probability hit. So the risk also you're undertaking. And second thing is you're also taking a career risk, right? It's not just it's a reputation risk, not just financial risk. Because in India you still have a stigma of failure. So as a founder, if you start doing something, your friends might show that they're happy for you, but they secretly are perhaps hoping that you might fail, right? And they will laugh after that, right? So there is that real fear that people want you to fail, and people say, okay, no, I told him it will not work, but he did not listen to me. So I think failure also is a big challenge. I think reputation risk, financial risk, and then the whole energy that you're putting in, right? So there's a lot of opportunity. If I'm working as a remote consultant doing 200K or drawing 200K, I'm only putting 8 hours of my work. But when I'm as a founder, when I'm working, I'm not doing 8 hours, I'm doing 10, 12 hours, right? So the kind of quantum of work and the kind of risk I'm taking, the overall opportunity cost, if you add up, it really is huge. And what is the cost of doing a startup? You have to hire, like today you can make a website on Webflow. You can make no-code tools to validate your idea and all of that. So the cost is actually pretty low. And you just have 3 or 4 people. Actually, for most of our journey, we only had 6, 7 people in the company for most 3 or 4 years, building a whole entire marketplace, and we were only 7 people. And our cost of my cost of actually entire.
All right. So you just heard from Nikunj on the cost, the opportunity cost that he had to forego for going ahead with his journey. So this was again fascinating. Let me go back and share with you the slides again. Yeah, so this was quite fascinating because nobody entrepreneurial journey, we only talk about the success stories. We don't talk about these topics on what are you foregoing. Sometimes sticking just to a high paying job is more rewarding because you can save more and then you can invest that money and stuff like that. So these are the topics that Nikunj was sharing, and I felt that was very, very insightful. And then I posted the same question on, hey, how can we measure the opportunity cost before we decide upon a journey or a decision? And I posted to a few entrepreneurs, and Rajesh Sethi, being Rajesh Sethi, always being generous to answering questions, he came up with this rule of thumb. And he says, for starters, these are the 3 parameters that he would look for making an opportunity cost decision. Okay, so that means the belief that the new opportunity is at least 10 times bigger than the opportunity cost. That means your opportunity cost is a full-time job, right? So the new opportunity that you're chasing should at least potentially give back 10 times the returns of what you foregone. So that was a great context setter for me. That was a great rule of thumb, at least something to measure myself. The second, he said that the rate of self growth that comes with the pursuit of opportunity is 10x compared to the other path. So the other path might be highly rewarding today, But when you are pursuing this new path, okay, a new opportunity, then the learning, the self growth, the rate of self growth is also 10 times more than what you are pursuing. So if you're working as an executive in a large organization, and then you are building something of your own. So when you're building the entire business, you're taking care of the entire business. Definitely, there is more to learn, more to grow than what you are experiencing and growing in executive role in a large organization. The third is the meaning and fulfillment that comes with such a pursuit. And these are the things that we never talk. We always talk in monetarily what we are foregoing, and we compare that, which is not true. What about the experiences? What about the self growth? What about the meaning and fulfillment of building something of your own? What about the freedom that you have? So these also play a part, and that's why I found this very, very fascinating, and I'm gonna save this for the rest of my life and share it with whoever asks whenever people are finding this trade-off decisions to make. So this was topic number 2. Now the topic number 3, very, very fascinating. This is something that I learned just yesterday about what agency means, and the topic is how high agency is a reflection of success in life. And it actually blew my mind, and it had left an impact in me, and I'm gonna pursue this more mindfully from now on. So what is agency? So there were 2 Twitter threads that I learned from. One is Shreyas Doshi, and the other one I will just share it in a bit. So what does Shreyas say? So I do not know if you know about Shreyas. Shreyas is a product leader, has a massive following on Twitter. He is one of the top 1% product leader. People follow him for the breadth of knowledge that he has, and he has this knack of sharing these product management insights in great Twitter threads, and that is what made him really, really popular. So he's known as the top-notch product leader today. So he defines what agency is, and he says high agency is about finding a way to get what you want without waiting for the conditions to be perfect or otherwise blaming the circumstances. High agency people either push through in the face of adverse conditions or manage to reverse the adverse conditions to achieve goals. So this is what his definition of agency is. And then the other person who also has a who's this Twitter thread on agency became popular. His name is Eric Weinstein, and Eric was interviewed by Tim Ferriss on his podcast, and this is his definition of agency. And he says, when you're told that something is impossible, is that the end of the conversation, or does that start a second dialogue in your mind on how to get around whoever it is that just told you that you can't do something? Okay, so if somebody says, you know what, somebody influential says right on your face, you're trying to attempt something, or you're starting a new business, or trying to find your way, and somebody influential, somebody big comes to you and says, hey, this is not going to work. So for the person with low agency, it would just diss him off, and it would actually make him leave because he just was told by somebody influential. But somebody who is high agency, he would not take no for an answer, come what may, no matter who he is. Especially when Elon Musk started his space exploration. So when he started to build, he got a lot of resistance from NASA, from all these big scientists, space scientists, and they actually cut him off and they wrote him off. But Elon Musk, being Elon Musk, he's a man with high agency. He cannot take no for an answer, no matter who is the person on the other side. Because if he has already set his eyes onto something, then, and he knows from his gut that he is on his right path, then all he would do is, as Eric says here, it's not the end of the conversation. He starts a second dialogue in mind on how to get around this resistance. Okay, no matter how big, how mighty the other person on the other side is. So this is what a person of high agency means. So the question is, okay, so a person with high agency leads a life like this. So if I'm going to get past this bouncer who told me that I can't come into this nightclub, so he's the hustler. So if a bouncer says, you don't get admission to this nightclub, so the person with high agency is not going to take no for an answer. So he will hustle, he will try to network, he will look for ways to get into somehow. So these are the traits of a high agency person. How am I going to start a business when my credit is terrible and I have no experience? And there are many people who come up with these excuses saying that, I do not have this resource, I do not have money, or I'm too old, I'm too young. But the person with high agency, come what may, he will not take any of this as excuses, and he will still go ahead. So these are two small examples. A high agency is a sense that the story given to you by other people about what you can or cannot do is just that. It's a story. It's somebody's interpretation. There's no grain of truth there. And that you have control over the story. High agency person looks to bend reality to their will. Okay. So he does not bend himself to what the perception or the reality around him. He bends the reality to their will. So they either find a way or they make a way. So they can't help but proceed. They're like water. Okay. So a flow of water, if it finds resistance, if it finds a wall, what does it do? It just flows around the wall. You cannot stop it. A water is so fluid, it will find its way. It will never stop and then mull over it on hey, I'm finding this resistance. It will not cry over it. It will just flow and find other ways. So similarly, a high agency person is as fluid as that. Low agency person accepts the story that is given to them. They never question it. They are passive. They outsource all of the decision making to other people. So Shreyas has this nice graphic who says 2x2 matrix, and he breaks it into go-getters, game changers, cogs in the wheel, frustrated geniuses. Okay, and he says that high talent, people with high talent and high agency, they are the game changers. They are the one who are moving the world ahead, who are capturing space, who are sending rockets to the space, who are building Teslas of the world. So they are the game changers. All right. So the world is moving because of them. And then if somebody's low talent but high agency, they're go-getters. The cogs in the wheel are low agency and low talent. And the frustrated genius are the one who have high talent, but they don't have high agency. So they are the frustrated geniuses. All right. He also says that if somebody is low talent but high agency, he can still be a game changer because he can compensate for his lack of talent with his high agency and still be a game changer. Yeah, so this is just avoid this slide. So low agency and high agency, they have different kinds of vocabulary and language. A person with low agency will say there's nothing that I can do, but a high agency person will say let's look at alternatives, let's look at possibilities. Low agency person would say that's just the way I am, but the high agency person would say I can choose a different approach. So it's mostly also, you can draw a parallel with fixed mindset and growth mindset. All right. So I can't, I choose, I must, I prefer, if only I will. So this is the way the attitudes, internal attitudes are. Cool. So this is all that I had. So these were my top 3 lessons on for this 2 weeks. I hope you like them. I hope you found them useful, because I found them extremely valuable. But just give me feedback if you liked it, if I could improve on certain aspect. I will be happy to incorporate them and make it even better next time. See you around. I'll be back again in 2 weeks with 3 other interesting new trends or new lessons that I have acquired in the next 2 weeks. Bye-bye.